Hi, it's Jill. I thought I would lay it on the line. I'm not just picking at Clifton, New Jersey people, so please give me a break. I'm not just picking on Clifton, New Jersey. I'm a woman of the world. I've been to every country there is. There's not, like I stated previously, there's not one country I know of, and I went to the best universities for 16 years in New York and New Jersey and in California near Stanford and Fullerton. And so I'm qualified to make that judgment. Why am I angry with Clifton? Because, one, my first day here, when I moved into 10 Ludington Avenue, apartment 2 upstairs, I never really got a chance to see it or look at it. I got like 3 minutes to look at it, and it was covered in with rugs. It was covered with all kinds of stuff. I couldn't even look. I had 3 minutes to make a decision. Do I want to be there, or don't want to go to where I was from? And it wasn't Bloomingdale. I decided I better just say okay. So I did. Anyway, the first night I was there, and the second day there was black sewage coming out of the shower, the sink, in the bathroom, and I got horrible sores all over my body. And there were worms, and I have pictures of them, and parasites all in my cabinets. How do big tapeworms, and I carried them into St. Joseph's Hospital. And I said, I didn't know what they were at the time, but I had the scientific evidence in my hand, and I said, I think I have some parasites. They did tests, and they came back, and I've got about 100 papers saying that I had tapeworms, which is, as we all know, if we know anything at the town hall in Clifton, it's very rare because of the standards and laws governing water. Tapeworms only come from soil and water, basically, unless you ingest them in pork that's not cooked. And here I am walking in St. Joseph's Hospital, a major trauma center in New Jersey, with tapeworms. They came back saying tapeworms. These are them. We have to say you have them on the discharge sheet because you came in holding the evidence. We looked at them. These are tapeworms. And then I had a whole bunch of other parasites and sewage and sores all over my body, and that scene has been repeated. The second day I lived in Clifton, New Jersey, Mayor and Zaldi. I went, because I know the jobs you're supposed to do, Mayor. Your assistant, the Italian guy, and I have the email, can't tell me it's not his responsibility to tell you about prosecutorial misconduct of any way in his email, because you're the mayor. You're supposed to know about terrorism. You're supposed to know about prosecutorial misconduct of your appointed officials, police misconduct. You're supposed to, this is your town, and anything that goes wrong with it, Anzaldi, is going to be in your lap. So don't try to tell me that it's not your job to know about prosecutorial misconduct or terrorists in your town. But anyway, I also know what the building and health inspectors are supposed to do. I don't know, but the second day here, Mayor Anzaldi, I walked into the town hall, up the stairs to the health inspector, to the person that I was told is supposed to come and test before I pay a dime of rent on my lease. The water is supposed to be inspected, and if it's not, if my landlord does not acquire a certificate of safe water or drinking water out of my faucets and my plumbing, then I don't have to pay the rent, and I can request one myself free of charge at your municipal building on Clifton Avenue. So I walked in my second day here. I was tired the first day. I would have done it. And then I had sewage, and my skin was breaking out. I was sick. I walked in my second day here, up the stairs to the health inspector's office, I believe it was, but you can be sure it was, I know where it is, and I can walk you right back there, and I know his face. I walked in, and I said, are you the gentleman that inspects the water in Clifton? I would like to get a certificate of safe drinking water. I forget the proper name, and I'd like it inspected. I showed him pictures. It was coming out black with sewage, and then I went to the building inspector about the other stuff. Anyway, the guy yelled at me, and he said, get the heck out of here. I'm not coming to inspect your water if it kills me. I said, that's your job, sir. He goes, get out. He didn't know me from Adam. And maybe he did, but I certainly didn't know Clifton or anything about this town from hell. This was my second day here. It was like I was dropped somewhere I've never been, maybe Pluto or Mars or Venus, who knows, some planet close to the sun, because this place is like hell. Now, who the hell is going to talk to me like that? You say you're stigma-free around here, Clifton? All I have been since I moved in and you knew nothing about me, you stigmatized me. The police especially, constantly taking the calls from some unqualified high school graduate named Anthony from Collaborative Support Services in Clifton on 6th Brighton Avenue. And they're constant emotional abuse, calling the police and saying, Jill wants to kill herself, she's suicidal, she needs evaluation, take her to the hospital. I was in Newark for a few weeks investigating terrorism over this past summer, and I tried to call the Newark police, who helped me get my service animal into the horrendous, hellish boarding house where I was supposed to be staying at temporarily, and I left. I walked out on the job because I don't do Mission Impossible. They were constantly collaborating to kill me and the service animal, but the Newark police helped me and made them get me in there without being killed and assaulted like they did the first night. And, I called them one day and I said, can you please take this woman in this room at Hill's Boarding House at 43 Stitcher Street in Irvington, Newark, wherever the border is there, to be evaluated. She's nuts. And they said, we don't take that type of code. I forget the code she used, unless you're a qualified mental health professional. But I've been here nearly 6 years, people. I'm an international honors student. I'm a highly educated person. I worked at the United Nations. I know law, and I studied law. I don't want to be a lawyer. I'm not an attorney. It takes 6 years, and you can pass the Bar Association. I studied law, international law. I'm supposed to know, as a scholar in international, national, state, federal law, local law, county law. I know twice as much as any lawyer. I'm supposed to know as many laws as humanly possible in the whole world as an international legal scholar. So I tried to, make a good impression, but the police just stigmatized me. They didn't ask questions. They didn't have any proof. They just knocked on my door. I very easily could have said, come in back with a search warrant or a court order, get the hell out of here. But they banged my door in. Now I owe, because some guy named Anthony said, Jill wants to kill herself. She said she can't take it. Don't you ask Anthony, Clifton, New Jersey police, or whoever calls you from CSP, do you have a recorded conversation? Why do you take everyone's word for it just because they say, I thought you're supposed to be stigma-free? Believe me, you're not. Just because, my kids were kidnapped like over 35 years ago, and I've been beating and having a war with depression about it because I have not seen my kids and they still hate me to this day. My son recently said he wants me to die, and he's in the U.S. Army 17 years. I'm wondering about their morals lately. His friends don't seem to tell him to treat his mother like anything but trash in the U.S. Army, and my daughter isn't... I haven't seen her in over 25 years once. She doesn't even care if I die either. I have some issues. You don't just come to someone's house because a high school kid, a 2-year-old, or a 50-year-old or 80-year-old calls and says, we think this person needs to be evaluated. And if you do, you at least listen to their side of the story. You say, are you going to hurt others? Do you feel like you're going to die? We've heard, someone called us, you might say. If I were an investigator, I think I could take Detective Mama or Maza's job as a piece of cake. And this past summer, when my landlord said he was going to shoot me and my service animal, Clifton and the Superior Court in New Jersey, I couldn't even get the police to come here to take a report. They laughed at it for 2 weeks when I came back from Newark, and my landlord tried to extort money out of me. He said he's going to kill me, and I have a 45-minute recording, several of them. The police don't even want to listen to. They ignored it, so I sent it to the police chief of police in Clifton, and I guess he did something. It came down on Detective Maza, and Maza was angry. He calls me and says, why did you send this recording to the chief of police? I said, why shouldn't I? You don't want to listen to it. Your cops don't really care. I've tried to, tell you to come and take a terroristic threat report, and they didn't want to do it. They said, the court clerk emailed me and said, and Detective Maza said to me on the phone, you're so smart, Jill. You know how to file an incident report, don't you? I said, yes, I do, but it's your job. You get paid for it. I don't. And they said, Jill, Detective Maza said, if you're so smart, do it yourself. And they emailed the court clerk, said, we'll send you the form, print it. I didn't have a printer. Print it, fill it out yourself, and if it's right, like Sesame Street or something, or, the Price is Right, like it's a game show, if you do it right, get it back to us and prove, you're not an insane freak, we might take the charges and bring the guy to court. Well, since that time, Mayor Inzaldi, let me tell you, my landlord has sexually harassed me over half a dozen times, 20 or more times, walking in my bedroom with his key illegally without an appointment when I'm half dressed. He says he owns me, he owns the apartment. The police have a dozen reports, and they won't take an incident report when he says, knowing that I have post-traumatic stress problems from being in wars all over the world with my family and stuff, he tells me to drink poison. He wants me to die. It's on a tape. And the police don't come down and take a terroristic threat report when I claim, he wants to kill me. He has a rap sheet. He says, he knows service animal very well. I sued him. It took me 2 years to sue him to get my service animal, military service animal, Biggie baby boy, and 3 years of the 6.5 years I lived in Clifton, I spent 2.5 to 3 years of that in mental hospitals, including Trenton State, because the police dragged me away because they got a phone call saying someone thinks that you need to go. And if you don't come, we're going to handcuff you and tie you down to the stretcher and make you. Well, I've had enough of it. After the terrorist attack and the police ignored my tips I wanted to give them, I know you're local police, but come on. Nowadays, in the post-9/11 environment, if any goddamn person, even a heroin addict, on Angel Dust, walked up to me and says, I know, I want to give you some terrorist tips, you take them, man. Take the chance while you can. But then the guy was at Genesee and Getty way before he ran over the people in New York, but you put me in a mental hospital over, and that's where I drew the line. I said, I gotta straighten things out here so it doesn't happen again. I don't know what's wrong with you in Clifton, but you cops needed a motion, not a raise. You're doing better since you haven't bothered me in a little over 2 years since I fired Collaborative Support Agency. So let's keep it that way. But I got very angry, very, very angry when my landlord said he wants to shoot me in the service animal. He wants me to die and drink poison, and he doesn't care if I do. And then he started talking. I started pressing buttons, and most of it I have on tape, several tapes. He has a method to dispose of my body. I said, would you report it to the police if he found me dead? And I drank poison. You heard him say, drink poison. I don't care if you die, Jill. And knowing I'm supposed to have, post-traumatic stress syndrome and depression, he says it to me on the tape. And anyone, half the world has heard it now, I'm sure, even the BBC in London. It's shocking that, I have to, you won't come down and you make fun of me and you tell me to file an incident report on this myself, which I did appropriately, by the way, more appropriately than any of you, because I happen to know that when someone commits a terroristic threat during a national state of emergency by presidential executive order like COVID-19, and Governor Phil Murphy signs an executive state order and says it's a state of emergency, a terroristic threat is elevated to a third-degree crime. The person is assumed guilty and arrested and sits in jail like John Gotti until they get the court case. But you didn't do any of it, and the Superior Court that gave me so much problems with Harry Shortway and everything else, lies, and Harry did try to kill me, and the FBI confirmed it in Pompton Lakes, and I can prove that. Let me tell you something, Clifton. I really don't know what to say, but the first assistant prosecutor, some bitch in Superior Court, called me and said, we're going to downgrade the charge back to Clifton as a simple harassment. Well, that's illegal. That's not, that's prosecutorial misconduct, again, of the highest kind. She doesn't have a choice. She has to do it. No one has him arrested yet. I have to live in fear every day. There's someone, plus my neighbor, Joe, Clifton Police. You let him run around with my illegal key, and a few years ago, you've got dozens of reports. He tried to murder me. I had to call you at 2 a.m. After you took me to the hospital. I got released at 2 a.m. The Volunteers of America, who I fired, took my key. And they said, oh, don't worry, when you get back, we'll be there at 2 a.m. We'll make sure you don't freeze in the winter and get locked out of your apartment. But I got locked out. They let me go. I got a taxi back here at 2 a.m. In the middle of the night. I was freezing. It was like zero. Ask the police or look at the report. I'm sure they know who they are. I know who they are. I knocked on Joe's door because he's not the manager, and he told them, quote, to the police that came to my incident, and, quote, I'm not the manager. And they said, well, you're not supposed to have her key if you're not the manager, and even I know that because I know the law. He illegally was in possession of the key, illegally given to him by my landlord, Jay Avranish of Ragav Realty in Passaic on 40 Mineral Springs Avenue, who is receiving $800 a month to pay for my apartment from U.S. tax dollars on subsidy for me to be there temporarily. Anyway, I banged on Joe's door and I nearly kicked in his door because I was having an asthma attack and my medicine was in the apartment and I paid to be in the apartment. The hospital let me out and I didn't have the key. The Volunteers of America took it. They didn't answer the phone. I was freezing and I had an asthma attack. I have asthma. I couldn't get in. I banged on Joe. Schmo is the great Moose member, lodge member. Joe, who works for Action Key. That guy is fired. He doesn't even deserve to be anything but a lowlife shit. He acts like my father. He's a drunk that yells at me. He's not my father. He's not my friend. He's not my husband. He yells at me drunk, tells me what to do. Fuck you, Joe. Don't come around to me, asking me for favors, buddy. Anyway, I knocked on his door. I never asked him for anything in my life. I knew he had my key illegally. But I didn't bother him, but I couldn't get in. I was dying outside my apartment having asthma. He said, fuck. I said, open the door. I'm dying. I got to get in. You got the key. He goes, fuck you. I'm not. He has to just walk down the stairs and open it and go back to bed. But he was watching TV. I heard him talking on the phone. He goes, fuck you. I don't have any responsibility. Die. So I called the Clifton police like 2:30 in the morning. I said, help me. And they didn't want to come. I'm like, I'm dying. I can't get to my apartment freezing. They're like, you're a real pain in the fucking ass. We just put you in a mental hospital. You know, maybe you need to go back. They finally come. What the fuck do you want? I said, yeah, I know. I got to get my medicine. I'm freezing. I can't breathe. They banged on Joe's door, and Joe said, I'm not going to open the door. They go, open the door. And they didn't even take the key away from him, you know. I've had it. Look, police, I shouldn't be there, and I'm asking Phil Murphy. I filed Department of Justice complaints against supportive housing, against volunteers, against the collaborative support agency, against everyone. And you can think what you want of me, but you are all in the wrong, and I'm in the right. And if I say you're legally wrong about something, locally, federally, county-wise, state-wise, or internationally, you are, believe me. I'm a better person to bet on, and I know the law better than the local prosecutor, who I don't blame. But it's true. Maybe people should think about that. You need to open your minds a little bit. You know, the world just doesn't revolve around you and your complacent little positions in the town council here. And Arnold Stark is right, Eastern Star. Jill Louise Starr does have more education, morals, and etiquette than you. You're just a bunch of busybodies, and it is true. My friend and his wife ran the Eastern Star, Lancelot Fletcher and Carolyn Clark Campbell, who was one of the first federal state, I forget which, federal attorneys in New York City. She passed away and her husband moved to Georgia, Russia, Lancelot Fletcher. But, you know, you want to reject me? You want to, because someone said I'm smarter than you? I didn't ask Arnold to say that. And I told him, you know, it was wrong. And it was wrong to reject me when I told you I'm suicidal, I've had problems, I'm educated, I'm looking for people to socialize with. And it's true. I've been alone. I don't know anyone in Clifton. And I don't want to. And it's sad. I'm very depressed but I have Biggie, my ferret. I don't want to meet people. They're uneducated, rude like Dorothy of the Eastern Star. They're jicks people because they're smarter than her, and they're poor, and their carpet's dirty. And they say they want to make the world a better place for all humanity, which is a Jewish thing. And they said, quote, we don't want to make the world better for all humanity. All we want to do is raise money for Clifton. I said, don't you want to help your sisters and your Mason brothers in Patterson? No, we don't, they said. We just want to help Clifton ourselves. And that's why I don't give you a damn dime or go want anything to do with you. And that's some of the things that are wrong with Clifton, New Jersey. Lauren Murphy, I volunteered like 12 hours a day for our campaign. I stood out in the rain. I came back to the Elf Lodge. I wasn't even allowed to have lunch to get her votes. After all that work, like 6-7 months of working under her because I had nothing to do, you know, they don't say thank you. I'm soaking wet. They don't even offer me a cup of coffee. The first thing they say is, are you going to go back out? I said, you got to be joking. I'm never going to see you guys again. As long as I live, you guys have no etiquette. You have no education. You have nothing. You're a low-class, blue-collar working town, if that. You don't enforce the laws right. And I don't start trouble. You guys all started the problems with me. You don't perform your job functions right. And I'm sorry, but, you know, my father was a director in a lot of government high-ranking clandestine agencies like the CIA, and my family is. And I have to say something. You all need to really think about what Jill Starr is saying, because what you're doing is not a reflection of me. It's a reflection on yourselves. You know, and this Judge Judy stuff in Essex County with my life insurance policy. She wants to overturn a decision from Governor Phil Murphy, a state decision saying I'm the rightful beneficiary, and she uses undue force to make me believe that she's going to take it to trial like a king and steal it from me unless I settle it for $1,000. She's going to, quote, make mistakes in the probate case unless I do what my adversary says. You know, now she's in the hot water too with federal the FBI and the Department of Justice. I've had enough. I tried to make a friend with the guy, John, the kidney failure on Harlan Street, but he gave me a table. I told him I don't want sex. I'm looking for a platonic friendship only. I cleaned his house 10 hours. I hurt my back over it. And he doesn't pay me. And then he tells the police, or he leaves me a note with his son. If I don't give him the table back, he's going to make a police statement out of it. The police have been doing very well ever since, we haven't had any incidents. I'd like to keep it that way and start over again. But no one, the last snowstorm, I got my car stuck right in someone's driveway right down there. Two neighbors, an SUV, just like that guy, coming down the street towards me right now. He, one's coming this way, one's coming that way. I'm stuck. I'm a woman. I'm disabled. I'm trying to get the car out any way I can. I can't push it. And no one wants to help me. They're just beeping their horns like, get out of the way, like I'm a dog or a brick or something or a piece of human trash. What is there to like about this town? I don't want to meet anyone else. Everyone else I meet is totally insane where I'm coming from. Look, I'm on the United Nations employable roster list, and you have to have at least 10 to 20 years in legal investigative law enforcement experience. I used to work for Held and Dice. You have to have at least between over 10 years experience to 20 years working in international, national, federal, local, state law enforcement investigations and 10 years, a master's or PhD or equivalent experience to even be on the United Nations roster list. You have to have a spotless background, and you can't be crazy. And I could just guide you there anytime, and you can see it for yourself. So, I'm not insane. So why do you do these things to me? If you want to have a good relationship while I'm here, stop.